Welcome to the February 11th, 2025 special session of the Board of Education. This is President Joseph Cilio speaking. Thank you for attending in Zoom or through in person. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Notice of today's meeting has been provided to the public and each member of the Board of Education pursuant to the requirements of law. Tina, can you please take attendance? Present.
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 Present. Present. Present. Present. Present. Present.
At this time, I have a motion to accept the agenda for February 11th, 2025 special session as presented.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Are there any questions from the board on the agenda items?
None.
At this point, I just make a note, this evening on the agenda, we will be approving BOCES, all contracts related to the CASDA engagement, all those materials, questionnaires, information input that's been received has been shared and posted online, and all the results as a result of the committee work and as a result of the consulting work will be shared with the literacy committee, the board, and the public when those results are received. So I want to make note of that at the start of this meeting. There are no questions from the administration at this time. Yeah, this time is designated for citizens' questions or comments. So please step forward and if you have any questions, please state your name and address. Thank you.
Rich Correo, Meadbrook Road. So the consultants started working yesterday, I understand.
No,
When do they
Okay.
start working?
they will start working when they're formally engaged.
So,
They do have access to obviously anything public on the websites.
so if I'm hearing that they were in the building, that's an inaccurate statement, correct?
Not or they're in the building, are they in the building to start their engagement?
And when is the contract start date?
It's going to be approved through BOCES. I don't know when the next BOCES meeting is.
Approved through BOCES in what fashion? Can you describe that, please?
BOCES, we use BOCES for consulting work, and they normally help us gain efficiencies in terms of costs when we engage consultants. We did this with World Language, I believe, is one of them recently, some other reviews. So we're just using that process, and the expense savings were afforded through using BOCES.
So what has been the vetting process? You know, I've asked questions about this. I don't feel like I've gotten satisfactory answers. How was CASDA vetted? Dr. Sina, can you explain how CASDA was selected?
I shared this in previous meetings. So CASDA was selected based on they're a consulting firm that has been around for a long, long time, I think over 20 years. And they do various types of reviews. So this was, and we interviewed them, and we had a couple of other ones as well, two other ones that I had mentioned at the last meeting. And we interviewed them.
When were they interviewed?
I don't have the date in front of me.
December?
We had said in a student achievement report, it was when December that we had said we were going to engage in consultants. We started looking for them, and this is February, so in January.
How many consultant firms were interviewed?
I interviewed 3, BOCES, another firm, Leah Mermelstein, and then also CASDA. And then the board interviewed CASDA as well.
Okay. And I just want to have a very clear understanding when it comes to the engagement itself. I'm sure I'll have further questions, but Dr. Sinha, you are, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you are committed to removing balanced literacy, Teachers College, Fontes and Pinnell from the Garden City schools, correct or no?
What we're committed to is the review process, and if in the review process, it states that we're going to be following whatever the state education department is asking us, and what they have said is very specific, K to 3, what they're looking for, and also 3 to 5. So if our consultants say that here's something you need to look at, right? Whether it is Fontes and Pinnell, whether it's foundations, whether we use a variety of different programs. We'll be looking at that very carefully. It's going to be going back to the Literacy Committee as well, all the recommendations. And everything, as Mr. Cilio stated, it'll be on the website. There'll be parent engagement. There'll be teachers.
But
staff.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're the superintendent of schools. You're not willing to commit, consultant or not, you're not willing to commit to that proposition.
If we were doing that, there would be no need for anybody from the outside coming in to do.
Well, that is a
review,
question that's on the
right?
table. That is a question that's been on the table.
We do curriculum reviews. It's a process that we use. It's not just for, we've done, reading was done prior to when I came here. So these curriculum reviews is a cycle. It's a good thing to do. We've done our internal reviews, somebody from the outside coming and telling us what we're doing well, what we need to do differently. That's a process. So we're going to be doing that. And so that is, we made a commitment to that. So
And I
that's
believe
what we're engaged in.
since 2017, this is probably the third or fourth consultant we've had in the area of literacy. With what results?
We have, consultants in districts in
Correct.
different curricular areas are very common. Currently, we have a science, somebody in the area of science that's
So my
helping us.
question is, what have been the results?
The results have been with specifically around helping us to build capacity. Consultants work with teachers, administrators, right?
Well, but
So-
in all this time, we have all these consultants coming in and we see our literacy rates decline over time. And the question is, well, one of the questions is, why are we now bringing in a consultant? I've been very vocal, and it's nothing to do with our great people, but we have a literacy consultant, we have a literacy coach, we have reading instructors, we have a literacy committee. Now we're bringing in yet another consultant within, let's say, a 5-year time frame.
Right, it's
So
just-
part of the question is why. The other part of the question is, were these people properly vetted? You're looking over there, I'm asking questions. So were these people properly vetted? And, why do we even need the consultancy? You're not even willing to commit to removing what has been proven as a debunked, non-scientific approach to reading. So those are all questions. My last question probably is, will you commit to the implementation of a scientific research-backed structured literacy program in Garden City?
If that's where we need to go, of course, but we are going to be following what we are required to do and what the state education department, they have the literacy briefs that came out. They're actually very, very good. They're excellent, and we'll be following that.
So you're not sure if that's what you're required to do at this point in time?
I believe in what we're doing currently, but we could always do better. We could always do better. And if that's the case and they make recommendations, again, it's going to be vetted through our people as well, which is the literacy committee. I'm not going to go back and forth. I think I've been very clear with that. And consultants having in district, it's not atypical. It's actually quite typical.
But it's not
Right.
clear what qualifies this group of people to perform this function. And we, as a community, some of us have had to reach out to CASDA and try and find out the information ourselves and ask the question, for instance, what's your track record? And the response was, well, we don't keep that information. So it does beg the question, what level of vetting was performed here? What level of oversight? I'm not seeing it. I'm not hearing it. And I'd be curious to know what was discussed between you and the board on this topic. what was discussed in terms of the various interviews that were performed and the relative merit of the consultancies. I've heard none of this debated publicly. That's a problem. This is all a problem. And you know what? Personally, I'm going to make it my mission to make sure everybody understands these issues and that we do have a top tier #1 structured literary program in Garden City. That will be my mission. So thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Denora Della Camera, 1 Sunset Lane, Garden City, New York. The most fundamental responsibility of schools is teaching students.
What?
Okay, let me fix this mic. Yeah. The most fundamental responsibility of schools is teaching students to read. Indeed, the future success of all students hinges upon their ability to become proficient readers. Dr. Singha proudly admits that Garden City is a partner with Teachers College Reading and Writing Program, that Garden City uses the Chappaqua School District's literacy program as a model. And she hired and used Lynn McKay, the former superintendent of the Chappaqua School District, as a literacy consultant. Dr. Singha used to be an assistant superintendent at the Chappaqua School District. It really boggles my mind to think as to why Dr. Singha would not follow it in the footsteps of the Chappaqua School District and hire the literacy consultants who were credentialed in science of reading, structured literacy, as did Chappaqua. The Chappaqua consultants completed their report and it was available for viewing on the school district's website as of June 2024. The literacy consultants report was very critical of Chappaqua for using TC balanced literacy. Chappaqua is rated up much higher than Garden City because they had to supplement all parts of it. That's part of what their 72-page report said, that all of it was being supplemented and there was no reason to continue using TC. Mr. Cilio, last time I was up here speaking, you made a comment and you said that you would consider high-performing school districts, but no other. We're number 51. The peer districts that you think are our peer districts are no longer our peer districts. Do you know East Meadow is 35? Do you know Belmore Merrick? Do you know Lynbrook? Do you know Levittown? They're all above Garden City. Do you realize that the CASTA consultants have less than 50% reading proficiency rates at the districts they worked in, where they were overseeing the literacy programs? So can you please explain to me how this is going to help us and why, if Chappaqua was so great for you to model our program after, and they have this 72-page document that fully details, it could mirror every problem we've been discussing about literacy here in Garden City. And it goes into extreme detail with recommendations and critiques. And they're willing to learn from this consultant because they're embracing science of reading and they want to be aligned with New York State. The people you picked are not. They're not structured literacy trained, science of reading credential. They're the opposite. You have Tim Backus, who has a 42% rate of literacy in his school district, South Colony. So please explain how he's going to help our literacy program improve. And please explain why Chappaqua was okay for you to emulate when they had TC, but now you don't like what they're using. So you picked a whole different route. You picked a whole different set of consultants that are actually against science of reading, that are not into structured literacy and have never even taught in a school system bringing structured literacy into fruition. Structured literacy is the methodology behind scientific reading research and how reading is taught, in case you were not familiar with that. But if you actually unpacked the literacy briefs and understood them and synthesized them and spent the time that Chappaqua spent doing it, then you would humble yourself and realize that maybe you made a mistake. And instead of doubling, tripling, quadrupling down, you would be able to learn from that and bring our numbers up instead of further decreasing them. South Colony is rated 214. Mr. Cilio, please explain how you're able to pay for these consultants who are way beneath where we are as far as proficiency levels and student achievement, and you're okay with that, but you won't consider anything else. So is this a plan of failure? Like what were you thinking?
Ms. Delacamera, I know
Dr. Della Camera.
Dr. Delacamera, Carrie D online for those who are
Yes.
unaware.
And that's because I'm a veterinarian in the community and
I-
I just post for literacy. So yes, that is my name online.
So
Thank you for reading my post. I'm glad. Maybe you read something because you don't read the emails and you don't read,
look at the pictures.
you
that
don't read
you
the New
interact
York
with.
State mandates for literacy. You said that was not your concern.
Do you want to
Is
hear
it your
my answer
concern
or
now?
do you want to talk?
You can answer.
The point of this review was to engage in a consultant to provide us a third-party point of view that would not provide us with just Teachers College, which you've advocated for. Thank you for recording again.
welcome.
I know it's, one of your favorite things to do. Teachers College and structured literacy. So we would like to, the board would like to hear both sides of the story from from the research that I've done, the research other people have done here. I've talked to other teachers. I talked to the administration. I don't think it's settled science. I know you
You're
feel more,
mistaken.
I know you feel more strongly about that. I've
No,
asked
I don't
around.
feel, I have data
Dr.
and statistics and
Delacamera,
everything else.
Can you, Mr. Celia patiently listened to you and complete.
Yeah, but he's saying things
I
that are live
understand-
and he's not being.
I understand everyone deserves the respect of being able to finish what they were saying. Everyone afforded you the respect. Please, let's just be able to listen until someone's finished. Thanks.
So the goal was to do a thoughtful review that hears all constituencies, yourself included. I know you met with Dr. Sinha. I know you've met and given your notes and your comments, and those are taken seriously. Those are being shared with a consultant to be reviewed thoughtfully, because the goal of this is to do better. I have 2 kids in those 2 grades you talk about. I know it. I live it every day. So it's not some sort of not passion project for me personally. I'm not happy with the numbers. Nobody here is happy with the numbers. I think in standard business practice, what you do when you have people with competing ideas or a program that's not working is you use outside resources to help you evaluate whether what you're doing is working, whether things need to change, whether there's a new program in town that is better. And the goal is to go through that process and see what it yields, see whether it delivers. Maybe it delivers structured literacy. I don't know. But to not go through the process is not the way the school district can operate. We need to operate in a consistent and professional manner. We do take what you say seriously. And that's why we engage the consultant, because it's hard for somebody who has a belief to Teachers College to give that other side of the story. And we believe our consultants will do that. We've put the full engagement online so community members can see it. They'll be provided the report. You can give additional comments if you'd like. We're happy to share that with them, but that's a process that will be completed. The results will be shared with everybody. That will go back to the literacy committee, which I believe you're a part of. You're a part of the literacy committee, so you can be there to advocate as well, which is great. And we'll see what results come out of that and what better changes we can make as a result of the work that's being done.
Well, I think my question also is, people that are involved in businesses, right? And that they're looking to move their businesses up to higher rankings or to have increased performance in their businesses, right? And they're looking for consultants and they're looking to better themselves. Would you pick a consultant that was functioning at less than half proficiency or less than half? If you were rated, if they're not able to move their product or to get X amount done and they're actually performing lower than you, what value would that consultant bring to your business? I'm just not following the train of thought. Like, maybe you can help explain that, but it just doesn't make sense. If you're looking at data and you're looking at trying to better something, why have guidance from people that haven't even gotten to where you're at?
I think in terms of, I think you're referring to Mr. Backus. I
All of them.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, and we also did look at the consultant that was chosen in Chappaqua, different background, very unique, kind of unique shop. They haven't been around very, very long. CASDA's been around a little bit longer, but they come from diverse school settings. They don't come from settings like Garden City. So in some fairness to them, I wouldn't necessarily expect them to have the same literacy results that we have. And so that's part of the challenge. I think, we lean on the administration to pick a couple of different candidates and to review those candidates. And we thought that was the best option for the district as part of this process.
The Chappaqua consultants had a whole school system that they ran and they implemented with evidence-based, high-quality instruction. I don't see anything like that for CASTA at all. And CASTA, any work that they did, it was a very misleading statement that was made last time, where it was implied that CASTA had worked in literacy with districts on Long Island, when in fact, that's not true. There was an email response to a question from a community member that stated that CASTA only worked in 4 school districts with special education. They had nothing to do with gen ed and nothing to do with literacy. So the information you gave us was actually incorrect. You made it seem that last time when we had this discussion here at the Board of Ed meeting, that they were, reputable and they worked in this area. They didn't. They didn't work in this area for gen ed, and they did not work in this area for literacy. And we have an email confirming that.
So I did say that they did reviews on Long Island, which they have done. And that was the statement that I had made.
Joe, Dr. Della Camera. First of all, I just wanted to, listen, I appreciate, you've made me a better board member. I am not an educator. I've listened to you for 2 years and I've researched much of what you've given me. I've had to. If we had come to you, and I'm just off the cuff with Theory and Practice as our consultant, would you have been all in?
I think that they mirror what New York State is asking us to do and asking school districts
Right.
to do if you unpack the briefs and actually understand what they say.
Right, and I look at all this, I look at, they actually work at a school in New Jersey, I'm just saying that, right, at a $40,000 a year school with a 1-to-5 teacher ratio, right? Both of them were educated at Teachers College. If I would have put that in front of you, and I mean it sincerely, you were a great value to what I've researched, but I worry that we're worried about little,
No.
words and this. They were both educated at Teachers
That's
College.
okay. Teachers
And they did a
College.
great job I read the report.
No, but Teachers College doesn't just have the Lucy Calkins method. They have
I-
2 routes of education you can
I
take, and one
understand.
is structured and one is not. So you can't just write it off as they went to Teachers College, so what?
I
And
understand.
lots of teachers
I-
taught with balanced
I'm
literacy
agree
and
with
then
you,
got
but
re-educated.
I just think if we put it out there, it would have been Facebook. So,
No.
yeah, okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate your honesty. But in the matter of fact is they both work at a small school, right? In New Jersey, $40,000 a year, 1-to-5 student teacher. I like the report there. Listen, we're in the same church, not in the same pew.
Well,
I think they did a nice job, but if we had come to you with that, I don't know if that would have made it out. They're only in business a year, right? Again, I'm not criticizing that. They did a nice job, but I'm just saying that I'm trying to look at it I'm an investigator. So I'm trying to look at it unemotional. I'm trying to look at it. I've lived through the Common Core.
right.
Unfortunately, I'm a lot older than people here. My kids suffered through the Common
Right.
Core. And that came down from the state.
Yeah.
Was highly approved by educators. So I just don't think there's a silver bullet. I think there's things you
Well-
talk about that we need to do or we need to look at to do, but I just don't think there's a silver bullet. And I don't want to get into another Common Core scenario.
Well, I don't want to get into another IM math scenario either. And Donna Scanlon has a program to sell called ISA for literacy. And at the East Greenbush School District where CASTA was consulting, they brought that in. And if you look up ISA on CASTA's website, it pops right up. And that's what they use for literacy. So did we sign is the contract that you have with CASTA, does that involve anything with ISA and Donna Scanlon's program?
The contract only involves the scope of the work that is detailed on the website. I think what's really important to focus on too is that the assessment that CASDA is going to do about our curriculum, we're asking them to use New York State Ed's K-3 curriculum guide. And we're also asking them to use the high impact instructional practices as detailed from the literacy briefs. So when we're asking for their feedback and their evaluation, we're looking to see where we fall as far as our work according to those high impact instructional practices that we are all going to be expected to follow in our curriculum work with our children. And I just really want to assure the community that when we're engaging in this work with the consultants, that the teachers, the administrators, and all of this board, we're looking for an objective report. So that's why we're looking for somebody that's like outside of the talent that we already have within the district. But we're also looking for constructive feedback with actionable next steps. And if some of those next steps involve us looking at different curriculum materials, looking at different curriculum programs, that this board and the administrators and the teachers are all open and willing to discuss those possibilities.
Well, I have a question about that. That's, very important statement that you made and that they're going to be looking at everything through that lens. But Tim Backus was a social studies teacher. He was not a literacy teacher. He doesn't have any experience in science of reading or teaching reading. And then you have Donna Scanlon, who's a university professor retired, emeritus professor in Albany, who is not a classroom teacher, who has not taught in a classroom teaching reading or teaching anything related to structured literacy. Her program was actually debunked because it uses guessing and cueing and a lot of things that were found to be how children learn to orthographically map words and become fluent readers. So those are two people right now that obviously are not going to be able to provide what you asked them to provide because of their scope of their work does not coincide with that. And then you have the other consultant who I can't find any information that she ever worked in a school at all. So she might have a teaching license, but where did she work in a school district teaching? And I can't find that because she just works for New York State and now does consulting on the side based on what experience, it's unknown to me. So these are who you hired then for consultancy work to do something that they have no experience doing. So how is that going to translate to helping us?
I think we've already talked about what we're looking for as the scope of their work, so I think just no further comment.
Right. But like, for instance, I'm a veterinarian and I do surgery, but I don't do orthopedic surgery. So how would it benefit somebody who needs major orthopedic surgery to come to me for a consult for something I don't do? Yeah, I learned about it. I assisted in surgeries, but I would never take in a case like that because it's not something I do all the time or even scrub in to help all the time. So I wouldn't want to waste somebody's time with my opinion on something that I truly don't have an expertise in, but I'm licensed. I can give an opinion on it. No one can tell me I can't do it, but it's not the right thing to do because it's unethical. And also Donna Scanlon lobbied against the literacy bills and the structured literacy bills. And there's actually a newsletter from New York State Reading Association upstate where she proudly lobbied against it and made statements on it. And I have a copy of that too. I'm happy to forward to you. But she said that as soon as she heard about these literacy bills, they put her at risk and other people at risk that obviously have programs to sell money to make. And I mean, that's not what she said exactly in those words, but you can understand where that takes you. Same thing with Lucy is having a hard time selling her program and F&P. I mean, these things affect the bottom line of these people that make these programs, that they're making money off of them. So you have people looking at something through the lens that New York State wants, but they don't have experience in it. So how is that objective?
Thank you for sharing your concerns. We've already,
But you didn't answer my question. You guys are spending a lot of money on consultants that have no experience doing what you're asking them to do. So can you please explain that?
Dr. Della Camera, we also know in terms of what we're looking for. There have been in the past, we've had consultants that we may not, if we're not getting the work that we need, we do believe that we will. And if there's a case where we're dissatisfied, we won't go that route, right? So, but I am if I could finish, please. I'm very confident that the engagement process for these consultants are going to work for the district and make us better. And again, you'll be involved in it. I shared with you, you've given me a lot of information. I said I'd be sharing all of that with the consultants, which I will be doing. And any other comments that we have received from parents. Parents are going to be very much involved, and it'll be a process where everything will be up on our website. It is already there, the information that we have so far, and we'll continue to do that and keep folks informed. And I think we're going back and forth, and and I know you feel very differently, and you feel very, very, very differently around with the work that we're doing. You're engaged. So I'm glad that you're engaged, and your feedback is going to be important.
What is the bottom line of the price tag here? What are they charging you
It's going to be $24,750
for the total?
total.
And thank you.
Effie Campbell, Oxford Boulevard. I don't have a school-age child. My oldest attended kindergarten the first year that it was full day in Garden City. And that was in 2005, and he learned to read with ease. And that was great, but I know that's not the case for everyone. It surely wasn't for my second child, and I understand the frustration that the parents in the district are feeling. And I think you do as well. I mean, I thank you for listening to them and trying to work with everybody, but it is a serious issue. Although I no longer have children in the district, I still continue to pay a very big school tax bill. And I'm concerned about how the money is being spent. And I'm not happy that a consultant is being hired that has, he came from a district that probably was very different from ours. It's in Albany. But the success rate was under 50%. The data I found said 47. Someone today corrected me, said it was 43. Dr. Della Camera said it was 42. So that's pretty bad. So, and then someone from the community reached out to CASDA, and you've heard this before, and they had no data on their successes. And that also is not good. So I question how we ended up with CASDA, but I also want to know why, when we have a superintendent of curriculum and a director of literacy, why do we need a consulting firm? And I know $24,000 in the scheme of things is not really a ton of money, but it's still our money that's being spent. And I'm trying to understand what the superintendent of curriculum is doing in terms of literacy, what the director of literacy, because that job didn't even exist that long ago. Am I correct? How long have we had a director of literacy in the district?
2.5 years.
We had a curriculum coordinator, 6 through 12, and then we changed all of our coordinators. They're now K-12. So that's been for the past, I would say, little over 3 years.
So what's the role of the director of literacy?
She is very much, all of our coordinators that are K-12 or directors, they bring a lot of professional learning in our schools. They do quite extensive work, but I'll tell you, if you speak to any school district, consultants, when they come in, I just said before, we actually had our science consultant come in yesterday. They bring another perspective. They help us get better. So that's like in any organization. You do get people to come in to help you to see things, with whatever area we need support in. So this consultant that's coming, it's really coming in to give us, here's X amount of work we've done. What can we do differently and better? So that's what CASDA would be doing. One question that you asked that I do want to address, any consultant that comes in, for whatever reason, the success rate is what the districts will do with whatever. There's lots and lots of variables. It could be and I don't know, but if there are consultants that make recommendations, you need more staffing, you need multiple changes. Those things happen over time, I think, and not every. Getting a review is a process. And I think that is something that's important for our community to understand with, when you do any of these curriculum reviews. And it's not atypical, by the way. It's actually pretty typical to do curriculum review. That's what we're engaged in at this time.
Right, but as Dr. Della Camera said, and I didn't know this, Tim Backus, his background is not in literacy. It's in social studies. So that's concerning. And he was a deputy superintendent in last year. His job is very new for him. So we're really rolling the dice here with him and his company. He's brand new at the job. There's no success rate that they can speak of. And from what I hear from my friends and neighbors, the kids in our district are not in a good place reading. I mean, those of us who have kids that learn with these, yay, but what about everyone else? And that's concerning that we're starting with a consultant with really no track record, and our kids are not in a good place.
We had shared CASTA is it's not a new organizations. They've been around for many, many years. So, you know, the director may be different, but that consulting firm, Casta, has been around for a long time.
But they have no data on their successes. Does everyone realize that they said that they have no data on their successes? How does a company like that not keep data?
I just explained that earlier. I think there's a lot of variables. It's on whatever, any review you do in a school system, any program review, it's about the implementation and what the districts are taking the recommendation and what they're implementing. So I think that's what that means from my perspective.
But you can still have data on that. You can say Garden City did X and this is what, right?
I can't speak to, I just gave you, I didn't speak to them about that. I couldn't give you that information.
I mean, I would love to know where they've had successes. It just would be, because it's not just the money, it's the time that's going to be spent on this and what's going to be accomplished in that time. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate what you do.
We always appreciate new people showing up, so thank you.
Angela Muto, 117 Kingsbury Road. I have a couple of statements to say. First of all, I know that every single person that's in this room is really on the same page. We all want the students of this district to do better. So that being said, I have to say that as a lifelong educator, I have been through many programs, some of them horrible, some of them great, some of them mediocre, some of them in between. I taught them, I did professional development with them, and even the worst left us with something good that we learned. So that has to always be considered as a stepping stone toward professional development. Even when you make a mistake, you actually have a learning lesson that goes along with that. I really wish, and I know nothing about CASDA, I don't care about CASDA, I'm indifferent, doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I love the fact that there is going to be another set of eyes coming in to look at everything, hopefully without being jaded. I don't know, can't speak to it, haven't researched CASDA, don't care about CASDA. Only care that every now and then we have another set of eyes coming in to say, let me look at what you're doing. Let me give my professional opinion. A social studies teacher has a professional opinion. Just because they didn't teach literacy doesn't mean that they don't have a master's degree in education, doesn't mean that they can't do it. But I don't know. I don't know this person. I have no skin in the game. I could care less. But we definitely frequently need another set of eyes. So if that's the argument, CASTA, I don't care. People do your research, figure it out, doesn't matter. But having another set of eyes should be respected and done frequently. What I really wish people would research is the validity of the data and the tests that we're giving and the attention and the time that we spend on tests that are invalid. We need better data. I think all of the work that's been done in the last 8 years that I've been following this and been coming to these meetings have led to us getting better data, not from the New York State ELA test, not from the New York State math test, not from the NWEA. The data that is timely, that is accurate, that is on the student's desk most recently is the best data. Something that happened when a test is given in May and the results are given the following September when the child is in the next grade, to me is invalid. Anyone that disagrees with me, I'm happy to have this conversation. But please research the data and then we can discuss where it is. As far as the data of the consultants, again, I'm not an expert about that, but in my humble opinion, I've been working in many different schools throughout my life. And you can't compare one school to another, you can't compare one district to another, and you really can't compare what the results are, because the results in the South Bronx are not going to be like Garden City, even if it's the same consultant. So that's my piece.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. To make more efficient use of the meeting time, the Board of Education authorizes the use of a consent agenda as part of the meeting agenda. Consent agenda allows for one motion to approve multiple items, and such items are identified on the agenda. The President of the Board will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda and will ask if board members wish to have a discussion or clarification on specific items contained within the agenda. Following the discussion, the board will then vote on the consent agenda motion. In addition, the board may request to have an item removed from the consent agenda in order to vote on the motion separately. At this time, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes business of boards matter F1, personnel matters G1 through G3, and business office matters H1 through H3?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Future Board of Education meeting announcements. The next one will be Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. It's a regular session at 8:15 in the Garden City High School. Is there any other business from the administration? Board? None at this time. At this time, we have a motion that no further business is to come before the board and the meeting is adjourned.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.